Hi all, our notable game today is another one from London Chess Classic. Magnus Carlsen, the current world chess champion, playing against Alexander Grischuk in round 9. We see knight f3, the Reti opening remaining flexible for a moment, seeing what black does. c5, and now white could play into an English opening, but actually chooses e4, so this is transposing into a Sicilian defence. And we see after d6, not the main move, which is just an open Sicilian, but bishop b5 check. This is the Moscow variation. Knight d7. After castles, white usually plays for c3 and d4, a bit like a Roy Lopez plan. a6, quite often white takes on d7 to set up a Maroczy bind here, for example, like this, opening up like that. e5, queen d3, and after h6, c4. This is a very common opening sequence, but actually Magnus chose slightly rarer bishop d3. It looks a little bit awkward, blocking in pieces for a moment. Knight gf6, rook e1. We have b5, and it looks as though c4 and bishop b7 could be annoying in the future. White plays c4 here. Now the very aggressive g5. Now this was seen recently in a game against Topalov in the Sinkfield Cup 2015, early in the year. Magnus actually lost that game. He didn't actually take the pawn, which looks in a fundamental way quite risky because there's the g-file to white's king. So tactically there's going to be resources based on this, you would think and expect. We see knight e5 following the Topalov game for a bit longer. Bishop e2, b takes c4. And the game against Topalov, Magnus had chosen knight a3, and it was a very, very exciting game. It's featured on the channel if you want to check it out. I'll put a link. You should see a link on the left actually if you want to check out the video annotation for that game. Basically, Topalov did get quite a bit of counterplay. Magnus sacked a piece quite early with knight a3, the follow-up. But we see knight c3 in this game. Rook b8. And now rook f1 is played. h6, the knight goes back. Knight d3. And this knight is challenged with knight e1, offering a pawn here. Of course, that's actually taken, so a pawn sack basically, but white's getting the c4 pawn. So pawn situation now, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're equal on pawns. Rook b4. White has a good grip on the light squares in this position. And also you'll note a6 is a slight vulnerability. White sets up a battery against a6. So sometimes this could be a concern, a threat. It's kind of countered with bishop g7 here. If white takes the pawn, it runs into a problem tactically on the diagonal. Bishop takes a6 wasn't played. If it was, bishop takes, queen takes, knight takes e4 is okay for black. We see instead, in this position, instead of bishop takes a6, we see knight c2, protecting the rook and hitting the rook here. The rook drops back, protecting a6. Rook ab1, black castles. Rook takes, queen takes, and now knight e3, strengthening control of the centre. d5 and f5. In particular, it looks very logical. e6. We see white playing f4, which justifies that rook movement back to f1. f5 looks like a logical move. You'd normally play to try and soften the diagonal up and open up the diagonal for the bishop. We see king h8 getting off that sensitive diagonal, but also rook g8 could be useful for that g-file. f5. We see black playing a5 here. And this a5 pawn is fixed actually with a4. Queen d8, so the queen might be coming for an attack. There's no knight on f3 here. The dark squares here are a bit more sensitive than usual. White plays h3. And here we have queen e7. And now, very interesting move indeed. Magnus tries to weaken black on the light squares with bishop a6, trading off the light square bishops. trying to trade off the light square bishops. Black obliges with bishop takes a6 in this position. Let's have a quick check here. Was there an alternative? Because this is quite committal. Bishop d7, bishop b5. If black refuses, white's made some progress putting in bishop here. And this is a little bit favourable for white, this sort of position. And if black played f takes here, trying to cover these squares, this is favourable for white. And it's a small advantage for white. Okay, so black took on a6, queen takes. But with the queen over here, okay, it's hitting a5. Black actually starts going for it. The dark squares, you'll see, they're particularly vulnerable here. And this knight h5 has ideas like bishop d4, bishop e5, and rook g8, queen h4. There's lots of ideas all on these dark squares. So there looks to be some counterattack happening here. And actually Magnus plays a move which looks defensive in nature. He doesn't snap off the a5 pawn. It looks quite dangerous if he does. What is black up to here? There's a lot of pieces conspiring just to attack the white king in this position, if you look at it. Especially with that semi-open g-file, black can put pressure on the g-file and on the two diagonals. So yeah, if white rather takes this pawn on a5, let's have a quick check here. Knight g3, yeah, knight g3 is mentioned as a possible idea. And this position, although it's given as okay for white, it's starting to look a bit scary. So Magnus's move looks to be defensive in nature, holding the g3 square against an immediate knight g3. If black wants knight g3, it needs to be supported first with bishop on e5. We have rook g8. And actually Magnus is keeping his queen here. He doesn't want to take on a5. And this is quite interesting. If he took on a5, you'll note the queen can't get back to the centre that easily. Can't influence control in the centre. But here the queen is influencing d6 and e6. And this next move shows that. Knight b5 hitting d6 instead of taking the pawn on a5. But black seems to have an elegant defensive and attacking move at the same time here. Bishop e5 defending d6 and providing knight g3 as a resource, potentially. Now Magnus blocks the g-file with knight g4. And now another aggressive move, queen h4, is played in this position. And it looks to have an idea of queen e1 check, queen takes d2. Now this is getting to be a very, very tense position actually. Black has a lot of pieces seemingly well coordinating actually against the white king with the queen over here. If you didn't know this, you might think this is like a human versus engine game, because the old engines used to like try and win material and seem to abandon their king but resourcefully defend later. Now in this position, Magnus takes on e6. Now should black just ordinarily recapture with f takes e6? Well, there's four pieces in coordination here, and will this happen again if f takes e6 is played? This is a big commitment in a way to play f takes e6, because white does have then the option of taking on e5. It seems, and this is very easy in retrospect and with the use of engines to check variations, black might have a very, very important tactical resource in this position at his disposal, using this coordination, which will cease to exist if knight takes e5 is played. Can you guess what black has, which might actually be quite a good move to give black potentially a crushing attack? What would you play here with black? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, starting from now. Okay, it seems that rook takes g4 is strong. It breaks through to white's king, it seems, in the variations. For example, h takes, because if e takes, let's have a look at e takes, then there's check, and here there's a clever resource to speed things up with check before white's going to have a chance to queen. Check here, and this is just winning for black, for example, like that. So e takes f7 is out of the question. So let's imagine now after rook takes g4, h takes g4, we have check. And it's interesting, knight f4, the three pieces here are coordinating quite well. If rook g3, then knight e6, hitting the rook, coordinating the bishop and queen. And in this position, actually, let's imagine this happens again. Actually, black can actually choose knight g6 as an alternative to hit the rook, which affords knight h3 as a resource. Rook f3, but black here not only has knight f4 or knight h4, but can actually try for a win, it seems, with king g7. So the threats of knight f4 and knight h4 are very dangerous for white. Remember, with the d6 pawn secure, the queen's kind of out of the way. It can try and come to the fence and rescue the king with knight c3, making way for queen f1. But this position is dangerous. Say knight f4, queen f1. Okay, so that's not too convincing, but knight h4 in this particular position is more effective. After queen here, knight takes, the attack's carrying on. And you might wonder why, hang on a sec, why allow knight takes f3? This is really dangerous. Let's just check this particular position. If, well, white has to defend g2, so there's actually really no choice. If this position, the attack kind of rages on. This is just better for black. So yeah, this variation is dangerous. Taking on f3, check, bishop takes c3. Black ends up being better here. Is actually a pawn up, and look at white's pawn structure. It's just diced. So this is really bad for white. So this is all a pretty dangerous continuation, it seems. Very easy to say, checking the game thoroughly for tactical resources. Very, very dangerous position. I'm not sure what white's defensive resources can do about this. If not knight c3, for example, queen b7. We have knight f4 here cutting this coordination of white. So threatening queen takes g2 and then queen e2 mating. What does white do here? If he takes this, again, black's just better here. Black's just miles better. So yeah, it does seem as though, and this is intriguing, it's intriguing that the ordinary recapture can sometimes be actually fatal for your position, basically. Or you might miss this moment of piece coordination which will not exist after. So it's kind of a committal tactical decision here. The seemingly simple recapture is actually a really committal decision, losing that moment of coordination where it could come together. And this does seem to be such a moment. Yeah, rook takes g4. What else is white doing? Rook takes f7. We can play check here. We're crashing through. The check here is the check here is just crushing. For example, here we take. Remember, the white queen's not even defending f1. Otherwise, we're accelerating a mate on g2. Yeah, it's easy once you look at it with vengeance. Rook takes g4 is cried out as a crushing move in these variations. It's difficult, in fact, even to suggest other moves. If check here, rook takes. Again, this is just better for black. Okay, so yeah, it seems as though after f takes, well, black played f takes e6. Now, this has been mentioned before, actually, on previous videos in the channel, that In Blitz, you're conditioned for reflex moves and responses and seemingly sensible, sane moves, but it's those seemingly sensible, sane moves which can represent major missed opportunities like a recapture. And here, the recapture here affords white the moment to destroy one of the conspirators for the attack. Knight takes e5 knocks out an important attacking bishop. And not only that, it makes the way for the queen to make an entry towards the centre here, taking a pawn. So instead of taking this measly pawn here, now look, the queen's in touch with the centre again. Very, very flexible, dangerous queen. Now this may have been part of a major miscalculation or something for black to try and secure a draw by perpetual check, because the game continuation shows now queen e1 check here, and black, maybe he just miscalculated. He played rook takes g2 check. It's a pretty dangerous position in any case. Here, if queen takes d2, I mean, things are loose here. The knight on h5 is a loose piece. So queen takes here, although black's threatening mate, so this can't be taken. But white can force a load of checks here and actually get queen f2 in with a very nice position for white. It's much better for white here. So yeah, black seemed to just miscalculate really. He sacked now on g2 and maybe thought he had some sort of perpetual. Now, this is crazy. In an earlier round, Topolov thought he had some sort of perpetual against Maxim Legrave. And actually, from a patternistic point of view, it was interesting in that similar game when there was a rook sack, that there was some strategic exchange and infiltration on the queen side actually as a precursor to that as well. So here it seems, there is no perpetual check, and white's just material up, king g2, and black resigns here. If we look at this final position, the checks are going to run out. Black resigned at move 38. Let's just check the final position. If queen takes e4, check, king h2, where are the checks now? White's just a rook up. If knight f4 check, just snap that off. White's a knight up and can munch these pawns and just clearly winning there. Yeah, a bit of an anticlimax from what was a position of great piece coordination. And I think actually that would cause me as an attacking player regret, to be perfectly honest, that for an ordinary recapture you miss this moment of coordination of your forces, and one of the key bits of your attack is just taken off the board forever. And not only that, you've just helped the opponent centralize the queen, taking a pawn on e6. Yeah, it seems dreadful, but it's a round where I'm sure the players are really exhausted. They've had a grueling tournament, round 9. Pure exhaustion must set in at some point, and calculation errors set in, etc. So Magnus, in actually winning this game, so this is the second game of the tournament he won, and in the final round, he actually jointly then was in the lead in the points score. So a tie-break, he forced the tie-break situation. And I'll try and show you some of the exciting tie-break games which then ensued after this. So this is actually kind of historic, in a way, important blunder which influenced the whole outcome of events now. And not only for this tournament, but for the Grand Prix points, the Grand Prix circuit that was created around this tournament, and the Singfield Cup. So, yeah, F takes e6. Who would have thought an ordinary recapture might have represented a major missed opportunity, it appears, from engine analysis. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.